Thank you to Courtney Cosby for nominating me for the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. You may notice that this isn't really a bucket, it's more of a cooking pot, and it doesn't have anything in it. That's because I'll be making a $100 donation. Now, because my father recently passed away from pancreatic cancer, I'm going to be splitting my donation between the two causes, but I figured this would be a good way to raise awareness and hopefully funds for both conditions. In a perfect world, I could somehow use the money to pay for both life-saving medical research and my hyper-inflated college tuition, but I don't know, what is it, Scandinavia? In all seriousness, you should know what your donations actually pay for when you're giving to medical charities. The answer is a lot of things, like compensation for scientists and paying for resources and supplies, which both fall under something called program expenses. The program is what the mission of the organization is, what it actually sets out to do. Administrative and fundraising costs are the other two, which should generally count for under a quarter of the total expenses for an organization. And just because you're donating to a cause doesn't necessarily mean your money is going to those immediately in need. What you get with the ALS Association is something really double-fold. They split their donations between the research for a cure aspect and providing for suffering patients. And they do struggle. ALS is a very unforgiving disease. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis was discovered in 1869, but it wasn't until celebrity baseball player Lou Gehrig contracted the disease 70 years later that it was widely known. Etymology time! A is Greek for no, myo references muscle, and trophic is nourishment. So amyotrophic, no muscle nourishment. Lateral basically means the muscle control portions of the spinal cord, and sclerosis is the scarring or damaging of the tissue there. As the disease attacks motor neurons, the victim loses more and more muscular control. What starts as tripping over things and slurred speech develops into full-blown paralysis. Further progression generally means that ALS worms its way into the respiratory and oral muscles, which makes breathing and eating difficult. That's how ALS kills. It basically starves you of nutrients and air, all whilst keeping your mind painfully intact. It's decidedly awful, but relatively rare, affecting about 2 in every 100,000 new people every year. That makes for approximately 5,600 annual diagnoses and 30,000 total domestic cases. Despite some success with the drug Riluzole? I think that's how you pronounce it? ALS has a near 100% mortality rate, with cause and function still relatively unknown. It can strike anyone, and generally occurs between ages 40 and 70, but obviously that can vary. There might be a video in the future concerning sort of the state of medical research in large-scale fights against things like cancer and genetic disease, because that's interesting. For now, I'd really just like to highlight ALS and pancreatic cancer, both of whose donation sites can be found below. If you're unsure of where your money is actually going, or you just want to find some cool charities, I'd really recommend a site called charitynavigator.org, which is hopefully somewhere above me. Hopefully. Also, I'd just like to apologize. I've been sick for a little while, so I probably kind of look like death incarnate, but, you know, I need a haircut. But I really wanted to make this video before I left the state. So, thank you all very much for watching and supporting medical research. Farewell.